Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. Wasp had finally kicked off their highly anticipated Album 1 Alive tour here in North America, playing their debut album from 1984 in its entirety from start to finish, with, some of those songs have not been played in decades, so it's really cool on premise, but Blackie Lawless has become known for overpromising and under-delivering. I mean, just look at the 40th anniversary tour. So let's take a look at the first few shows so far on the Album 1 Alive tour. How does this tour live up to the hype so far? How does Blackie sound? And is it really live? The band kicked off the tour at the Fremont Theater in California, and you guys can see the set list right over here. This is the standard set for the first few shows so far. Kicking things off with I Want to Be Somebody, number 2, Love Machine, track number 3, The Flame, for the first time in its entirety since 1985. Bad for the first time since 1985. School Days, first time as well since 1985. Hellion, Sleeping in the Fire, for the first time since 2015. On Your Knees, Tormentor, for the first time since 1985. The Torture Never Stops, played for the first time in its entirety since 2014. Moving on to the encore, you have The Big Welcome, Inside the Electric Circus, I Don't Need No Doctor, Scream Until You Like It medley. You have The Real Me, Forever Free, The Headless Children, bit of a Headless Children medley there. Track number 13, Wild Child, and track number 14, Blind in Texas. It's so cool to hear deep cuts from the debut album being played live. Great tracks, very underrated songs that never get performed, like Bad and School Days. And outside of the debut, the stuff from the debut, I was really surprised to see Scream Until You Like It being brought back into the set. Also surprising not to have anything from the Crimson Idol in the set list. That's my favorite Wasp album of all time. I consider it to be the quintessential Wasp album, but I guess it's okay when you're performing lesser played tracks like Tormentor and The Flame instead. The 40th anniversary tour promised to take the band back to the beginning, but it didn't really feel like that. This tour has much more of a throwback feel to it, and that set list is definitely one of the biggest contributing factors as to why. No Animal in the set this time around. I don't mind personally. I think the last tour kind of showed us that Animal is not quite the novelty that some of the fans and Blackie thought that it was, and so I'm fine, hearing deep cuts instead. And what people don't really remember is that Animal was a standalone single. It was not part of the debut album, but rather included on the 1998 remaster instead. But like I said, I'd rather hear deep cuts anyway. As for how Blackie Lawless sounds on lead vocals here, he's made no attempt at denying the fact that he's been using backing tracks to, quote, fill out the sound, live. It was painfully obvious on the last tour. However, the first few shows actually sound live, which I was really pleased to hear. Blackie's vocals now, that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear Blackie from, 1984 and 1985. Anyone who goes to a show expecting to hear the Blackie Lawless of 40 years ago is, expecting something that Blackie just cannot give us anymore. He's not, 30 years old anymore, and that's okay. I want to hear how Blackie sounds now. And so these shows, they sound real. His voice seems to be in good shape, and in addition to the backing tracks, he didn't sound great on the last tour, but he was also dealing with some back issues. I believe he had to have back surgery that left him performing sitting down for a while, which was, tough to watch. I'm not a singer, but I have to imagine that sitting down and singing impacts your vocal delivery, coming right from your diaphragm. So, he sounds far better here, and I'm glad to hear it. His mic stand is massive, though, and so it kind of makes it hard to see his face while he sings, but from what I can tell, it all sounds real so far, and so that's a big thumbs up. All in all, things have really exceeded my expectations in the sense that I was, expecting backing tracks. I was afraid Blackie was overpromising again. I was worried that he'd still be seated for these shows. Things were looking pretty rough for Wasp, if you remember back to their few festival shows earlier this year, but clearly Blackie was just saving himself for this tour, and that's a good thing. No stage show on this tour, but, that's fine. I'm not really expecting that from 70-year-old Blackie Lawless. After what we saw a couple of years ago, I'm just glad that Blackie's able to stand up and perform. So, I'm seeing them live later this month. I can't wait. I was initially pretty pessimistic about it. Again, I had low expectations, but after seeing, some of the stuff so far on this tour, now I can't wait to hear it and to, of course, hear the first album in its entirety as well. On top of that, I do get the impression that this might be their last time in America, their last tour in the United States, which has not been a hot market for them for many years. Coming back on the last tour was big, but I don't see them being able to sustain drawing in America the way that Blackie Lawless wants in the years to come, but I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, because I'd love more opportunities to see them in the future. So that wraps up this brief review here of the Wasp Album 1 Alive tour so far. They've done a few shows. Just wanted to share my thoughts. My expectations going in were pretty low, and they've exceeded my expectations, and very relieved to hear that the shows seem to be live and real. I like what I've heard so far. I've watched a few shows that have been up on YouTube already, and am very pleased. Cannot wait to hear it for myself. But just wanted to, share my thoughts real quick, my reaction to what the band have done on their first few shows on this tour. And again, great to hear some deep cuts from the debut album. I'm always going to to approve of that. So thumbs up all around so far, and hopefully the band are able to keep it up throughout the tour. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and be sure to let me know down in the comment section below, are you going to be seeing Wasp on this tour? I definitely want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.